Threw in the pal. Threw in the pal.
Greetings, pals.
Greetings, pals.
Hey, pals.
Welcome to the podcast Around the Pal. My name is Frank.
My name is Marcus.
My name's Tom.
Today we're talking about The Fast and the Furious.
Yes, we are fam.
The whole series.
Family.
No, the first film, 2001.
Oh, shit. Marcus, you did all that research for nothing.
This is the podcast Around the Pal. We debate movies, love it or hate it. We debate it. Wait, is that the catchphrase?
That was it.
We debate it, love it or hate it. We debate it.
No.
Is it a bookend?
Nah, you stuffed it.
Oh my gosh. What, does anyone else want to jump
Are you
in?
broken? No.
Are you good, man?
You never let us jump in before. We're programmed. Go.
We're talking about Fast and the Furious.
Hey,
Vin
we
Diesel,
rate these out of
Paul-
11. Why do we do that, Tom?
God, we're into that already?
Including Hobbs and Shaw, there are 11 films in this series.
I love it when he does a shit one. I love it. Just like shit
No,
canned it.
But I tend to do that when it's one where I couldn't give a shit about it. And so I was
Whoa,
like,
whoa,
yeah,
whoa. Don't
Let's
give
save
away.
it.
call
Don't
it
give away
early.
the ending.
Yeah, I'm 30 seconds ahead of you all. Like,
This is going to be wild.
Shout your name if you like this movie.
Marcus.
Frank. Oh, boo. Thomas doesn't like cars.
Thomas is so lame.
Okay, quickly. It's directed by Rob Cohen.
Yeah.
It's based on Racer X, the magazine short story.
Sure.
You'd say?
I believe you.
Or is
Something
it based
that
on
was in-
Need for Speed Underground 2? It might be based on
Other
Need
way
for Speed
round.
Underground
No,
2.
I
Other
think
way
it was
round.
based on I think
Oh,
it was
gosh,
based on the story that was in
obviously a
Vice.
It's obviously a
Well, you
joke.
just sound dumb.
Yeah, we're just trying to correct you.
Need for Speed Most Wanted. I know video games. It was
Okay.
based on Borderlands 2.
Frank tries to enter a video game conversation.
I think Cars were based on this movie, actually.
it was based off Mario Kart.
Give us your numbers then, you bastards.
I'm going to give this a 7.8.
Wow. 7.8. I'll jump in. I'll give it a 6.5. Pretty good. I enjoy it.
4.
4.
Now, before we get into it,
Oh. Fast 4 and Furious 4. No?
boys,
Is that one of them?
the boys in conversation with prepping for this one, they're like, who's seen all of these? And we all went quiet. And I was like, well, I think in the room, I guess I've seen the most. And then I think, I swear someone said, well, someone may as well watch all so we have a point of reference.
That was you.
I don't think I
you
did.
went and
I don't think I
and
did.
Someone's going to have to
And
watch
if
them
I
all.
did-
Yeah.
And then you dusted your hands and walked
Self-sacrifice.
out of the room.
if I did, I'm mad at myself.
And we didn't see you for a week.
There is no world in which I was like, well, Marcus, you got to do your research.
Can
Okay,
I
but
say-
hold on, just quickly.
Oh,
Tom,
no.
how many have you seen?
Yeah.
This is it. This is the other one.
Frank, how many have you seen? I've seen 3.
Okay.
Good. Marcus?
I've seen
sorry.
11.
Including Hobbs. You
I've
watched Hobbs
seen
and Shaw?
Hobbs and
Or did
Shaw.
you watch this one 11 times?
No.
Because that's a bad time.
I've seen this one a
I've
few.
definitely seen this one 11 times or more.
Wow.
I have seen all 11 films.
That's insane. Very impressive.
You sound so
How is your
excited about it.
soul?
Help.
Okay. Because I watched
Get mum. Get mum.
Yeah, Mum. I watched an essay the other day that was like the first 3 are kind of the same film in different scenarios. You've got Tokyo Drift is the same story, but in Tokyo, but with no Japanese people. The second one is the same story
No.
in somewhere else. Oh, no. It was with black people, which is the introduction that was like, whoa,
Yeah, it. Oh.
which is not
okay,
great.
we have to see. We have to
And
spend this
then
whole pod talking
Fast
about the first
4,
film.
5,
Yeah.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they get large from there.
I would argue 1 and 3 are watchable and enjoyable. Number 2,
Too fast, too
I
furious.
hate Too Fast, Too Furious. It's just. Oh God, I can't even remember his
Ludicrous.
name. No.
Ludicrous.
Our main guy,
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker.
Vin
Whoa,
Diesel.
Blanked. Sorry,
Paul
Walker.
Walker.
Just being a fish out of water. Like he's trying to be a different race for a whole film, and it's uncomfortable.
Oh,
It's
he's
an uncomfortable-
acting like a black guy in the movie?
Yep.
Yeah.
That is
It's an uncomfortable watch.
Isn't he kind of... Isn't
very...
he... Paul Walker's such a strange dude.
Well, he's trying to act like a human being in this movie, and I
Can't-
don't think he quite makes it. So,
I kind of like him in this.
nah, I think
I
he's
kind of
terrible.
like him in this. I don't know.
It grows on you, I think, as it
His
goes
voice,
like a tumor.
his
on.
eyeballs, and his
Except
voice.
at the start of the film when he does this. So it's like this, right?
Oh,
no.
so check it out. It's
So
like
check
this.
it. It's like this. Yeah.
If you win...
So that line is the whole second
He
film.
just decides, man, I kind of nailed that.
Have you guys seen there's so many sidebars. Have you seen the TikTok of the guys who use Fast and Furious dialogue in real life?
No.
Yes.
Hey
Yes, I
man,
have.
is this what you're riding? Yeah, nice. What's under the hood there? Yeah, cool, bro. It's
They
not how
do
you.
the
It's not
whole
how you
scene.
race it. It's how you stand by it.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not how you stand
by
next to it. It's how you. And then he says that like, think about it. And Paul Walker's like, I will think about that.
It's
That was
also
really
like,
insightful.
yeah, it's a race. So of course it's not how you stand by
Yeah,
it.
he's like, wait a minute, I have to.
I have to race this
Guys,
car?
I'm on my L's. Like, I'm not going to be able to. By the way, Michelle Rodriguez and Jordana Brewster did not have their driver's license when they made this movie.
No way. Nah,
Yeah.
that's 0 out of 10.
Isn't that crazy?
Outrageous. Did they really drive though?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone really drove in this movie.
Yes, they did.
Oh, did they?
They did a lot of their own driving. Paul Walker's a
Paul
very
Walker
good
definitely,
driver.
Yeah, he definitely did.
Okay.
Which is weird because Brian is not the best driver in the film. Vin Diesel's arguably better, faster, more furious.
I'm just going to say for the room now, before we get into this, really get into this,
Yeah, let's
I
take
have
it.
given this a 7.8. I know that it's generally quite terrible. There's something about this film that I love. I'm not a rev head. I've never grown up with cars. Don't give a shit. When I was in high school when this came out, didn't care so much. Just enjoyed the film for what it was. I wasn't like, fuck yeah, those cars, and just frothing on it like
2001?
Yes.
So I was
You were 12.
Grade 6, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the general population behind this film at the time it was all about the cars. It was all about the fashion sense,
That whole
neon,
culture, the
everything.
street culture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Underground street racing.
I just didn't get that. I didn't care. But like as a
you
film,
have that in Devonport,
yeah,
Tasmania,
I know,
where you're
I
from.
wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely wasn't part
But to
of
be
it.
A lot of
fair,
Mitsubishi Lancers.
Oh yeah.
I'm a little younger than you. And so when
Brag.
you would come and hang out with me when I was younger and you were my cool older cousin and you
Forced
would
to,
show
yeah.
me your Pokemon cards and you go, okay, so yo, check it. And you would throw down the Pokemon cards. So like, I think there was still some influence there, right?
Well, you guys always hung out
I
because
don't
you're
know if you're trying to
family.
embarrass me, but hey,
You did have the tips. That's the thing I remember.
I did have
You
the
had
tips.
the tips. Those
tips.
were those.
I did have the tips.
Yeah,
Just
they
for
were
a second, just
Anyway.
a tip, just to see how it feels.
This film, I wanted score higher, but because of the trajectory that it takes, it is automatically
can't.
being deducted. Nope.
You can't.
No.
No, because this film existed by
It's
itself.
tainted.
It's okay.
Tainted. Even as a standalone.
Do you know what's great about this film? I'll do a few things that
Please
I love
tell
about
me.
this
Sure.
film. This is you have to take away the weight of what it became. Vin Diesel isn't actually that bad in this movie. His
kinda
voice,
great.
his voice is outrageous. I love his voice. I'm in your face. He's like
It's not even that. He doesn't even project. He's so quietly spoken and so
Guttural.
deep and resonant.
the racing is
And it
cool.
works.
I think that when they go through the engine and show the NOS working,
Awesome.
never seen that. That's kind of cool.
So great.
The aesthetic of the film is
No,
very
Tom-
stylized.
I'm
Tom-
smiling. I'm
he's-
not
he's-
saying you guys.
He's smirking
I'm
because
not-
he thinks it's silly. I can
I'm
see it
telling
straight
you to
away.
stop interrupting me. Let
Sorry.
me finish.
Sorry.
He's sitting quietly. You're trying to support me, but you're hurting me.
I was trying to support
the
you.
teacher.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to support you.
I know.
I'll be quiet.
Stop pulling faces at his cool story.
It's
Tom.
a cool story.
Continue, Frank.
I think the cast they're very charismatic, and they're doing, it's a very simple storyline. Undercover cop infiltrates the group, gets into some hijinks, finds out that his new family are the bad guys. They're doing this job, and then the last climax, like the big fight job, is one truck, and the guy, what's his name?
Is it Leon?
Can I say something?
Yeah, it's
to
Leon.
ruin this for
Johnny
you?
Strong, where Leon is just hanging off this truck with the cable around his arm.
Yeah.
And it's so low key in terms of what
Low-key.
we're in for. But when this first came out, it's an awesome action sequence.
Yep.
Awesome.
That sequence is great. I really like
The
it.
driving under the car at the start when you show that, all the stunt work is pretty awesome.
Better
and
than
so real.
Mad Max. Better than Fury Road. Joking.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously, I just want to see what Tom did. Can
didn't
I,
even
can I
believe it for a
say, though,
second.
the story, as you described it, is Point Break.
Yeah.
Paul Walker came to Rob Cohen, or they came together.
They came at the
and
same
he
time.
said they came together, and he said he wanted to do something with street racing, but meets Donnie Brasco. So yes, it's kind of got like
What?
well,
Yeah.
but like it's got that thing of like the undercover
Sure.
cop, and yes, same with Point
Point
Break,
Break.
is doing that as well.
Donnie Brasco's a pool. I see it.
that was
But that's what Paul
Walker's-
Walker had said. Like,
like,
that's
take
his
on it.
pitch.
It's Point Break. It's identical to Point Break.
Or the blonde hair.
I mean, Point Break is a good movie,
Swayze.
so there's some differences. I would say
It's an undercover
Surfing.
cop that infiltrates a cool like adrenaline-seeking group
They are cool in Point Break.
to pull off heists.
Because you're in the
Like,
water.
it's
The water
same-
is cool.
It's Point Break with cars.
There's no Ronald Reagan masks. Anyway, we digress.
I'd agree in the sense that Point Break has
They're
like,
very similar power. I'm
no,
fucking
but
with you.
that it has the thrilling action sequences. It has like the charismatic main guy. It has the stable cop that we follow right on the journey, and it has some very, very thrilling and well put together cinematography and editing. And then you have this movie. So like
I knew you
that's
were
the
about to do that.
contrast.
God,
Unfortunately,
you are so predictable.
He's so cynical when he doesn't like
well,
something.
Catherine
There's just
Bigelow
no
is
wavering.
a good filmmaker, and Rob Cohen isn't. I think is the big distinction. Rob
Sure.
Cohen, we should mention.
Yeah, let's
just
should we
briefly
go-
is a piece of shit, a very, very bad person. Like actually, a man who has sexually assaulted people allegedly, and is essentially no longer in the
Oh,
industry.
he looks it.
Yeah, he's not a not a cool guy.
I haven't seen him before.
That said, he made one movie that I was kind of obsessed with as a kid.
I know what it is.
Go on.
Stealth.
Nope.
Yeah, Jessica Biel, Jamie Foxx.
Say no, and he's like,
I got you. I got you. You love stealth.
I got you.
Nothing-
I got you.
You
Nothing
never
beats-
had me.
nothing
You
beats a
didn't
human
even have
pilot.
Your car.
Yeah.
You
See?
guys-
Great lines, quotable.
No, because you guys are just mashing quotes against each other to see what happens.
What film is this?
It was a mashup of awesome.
I was
Go on.
a bit obsessed with Triple X as a kid. I kind of watched that movie over
Great.
and over again. I don't
That's
know if it
weird.
would.
You are
direct that?
so weird.
I don't know if it would hold up. If I watch it now, it might
it doesn't.
suck.
It
but
does.
I watched it a lot.
It doesn't.
It's great.
Samuel L. Jackson, which helps. But anyway, I do not think this is a good movie. I saw it partially as a kid, maybe in the background. I definitely never sat down and watched it, but there were certain scenes that played out when I watched it the other day, and I was like, oh, I kind of remember that scene. Like, I kind of remember that. Mostly the actual drag races near the end of the film with... His name's not Mouse, but I'm going to call him Mouse from The Matrix.
It is Mouse.
I don't think it is, though, the actor.
Fuck off.
I'm pretty
It's
sure
Jesse.
I'm pretty sure it's not actually Mouse from The Matrix, but it looks...
no,
convinced it is.
it's not. No, it's not the same person.
I genuinely thought it was for most of the movie, and then I realized, no, it's not. But he looks like Mouse.
And it's the exact same character.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
Except, well, it's a character in The Matrix, and in this he's whatever. But, like, it's this
I got that AD attention.
Yeah.
Shit.
And then his dad, right? Because there's that story about his dad. It's really heartfelt, really well invested in the
That's
film.
Vin Diesel's dad.
No.
Oh, no,
Like
sorry.
he loses the car that you remember he was going to drive with his dad when he got out of prison. And
Yeah.
we know that because they say it once. And then
There's not a lot of motion.
who gives a fuck?
The
Am I
race war
right?
sequence there's not a lot of weight to some of it.
Also,
So dumb.
why would you call it Race Wars?
That was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
That's why they
the
did-
first time someone said, "And we're having a race war in the desert," I was like, "Ooh boy!" Yes.
That's why they made Too Fast, Too Furious and introduced some black people. They were like, we got to backtrack on that.
That was
Bad.
so.
It's also
funny.
the white dudes racing. Is it the Chinese? Oh, it's the Japanese Yakuza gang type.
Yeah.
They probably are. They probably. Yeah,
And that's
right,
what it is because
absolutely.
it's like all of.
I think
Yakuza-esque.
that actor is Korean American, the guy who plays Johnny Tran, and the only other
Yeah.
thing I know him from is Die Another Day.
He's-
He's one of the henchmen.
Oh,
the
is he
guy who
henchman?
wins with the diamonds in his
Yeah,
face.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
him. He's Johnny
He
Tran.
is henchman.
Rick
Yeah.
Yoon.
Rick Ewan.
He's
Yeah.
very handsome.
He's very handsome. He's got a good rig.
huge rig.
He's
Look at the
actually
shoulders on him.
got a
What are the
better-
measurements on those?
He's got a better presence in
I don't
this
know.
movie. Tell us
Bigger,
about
bigger or
his,
smaller than Chris Pine's
tell
hips?
us about his hips.
Of course, his shoulder's going to be bigger than Chris Pine's hips. Everything is bigger than Chris Pine's hips.
Yeah, what a crazy question for you to ask, Marcus. You look like a fool right now. Anyway,
Yeah, you do. You know what? I'll stand by that. I feel good about talking about
Rick Ewan
measurements.
has more presence in this movie than Paul Walker. I think Paul Walker is a bad actor, and I think this movie proves it because he acts bad in it. So there you go.
Great argument. Thanks for your insight.
He's not great.
What do you mean?
There's more grounded
He's
moments
terrible.
where he's being charming, and they've got the date sequence with Jordana Brewster.
Is that another movie? Is that in this movie?
No, it's in this movie.
Okay, I've missed that scene where he was charming.
because you switched off, and now you can't actually criticize this film because you haven't watched it properly. I'm convinced.
You didn't enjoy it, so you don't get to talk about
How
it.
much?
If you-
How much
you're
attention
just-
did you pay?
because-
I watched the whole fucking
What I'm
thing.
hearing from you at the
language,
moment is
calm
you've
down.
done this before, and Frank does this a lot. This is a Frankism.
I'm going to
You
argue
are
against this in a second.
immediately
Go on.
dismissive of the remainder of the film because of the moment you checked out. That's it. It's
That's
done.
not true because the final chase or the second last action sequence with the truck was incredible. And I was like, oh, I'm back. Great. This is cool. And then, it goes back
I
out the
see
window
your
again.
point. I feel like a lot of the emotional drama doesn't land as well as they hoped it would.
How am I meant to be entertained by this movie on a scene-by-scene basis? Every time a new scene...
I don't know, pal. Just fucking relax.
Every time a new scene happened, I was like, what is meant to be fun about this? I get that there's the sequence at the beginning that I think's okay when they're getting the truck. The best thing about it, as you mentioned, Frank, is the car going underneath the truck.
Yep.
I think the whole like using the grappling hook and
I don't mean to be a stickler here,
Go
but
on.
when you see the truck in a wide shot, that is far too low to the ground. And when they do the sequence, it's jacked
suddenly
up.
it's up.
Oh, yeah.
There's also no need for the car to do that, but that is kind of one of my favorite
Yes,
things about
there
the
is.
movie. No, it could
Yeah,
just
because
be...
the
Also-
lane.
But
you
yeah,
can
they
pull in
could just be
behind.
further back.
but there's
instead
already a
they're
car
like,
there.
But how about I do this?
But there's
And you're
already a car there.
And it's kind of kid logic of like, oh no, but my car goes underneath the truck, and you're like, bah! And it's like, yeah, that's fun.
Because
I like dumb
this
shit
is-
like that.
At times, though, and
That's
this is
what
what
it
they lean
is.
into as the film goes on, right? Just hear me out. As the franchise goes on, this is a kid playing with their action toys.
100%.
Right? And so you've got to just sort of accept the fact that a kid's going to like imagine the car's just going to fucking go underneath or do a flip and land on its wheels and all this other shit. Like, you just sort of have to buy into that.
Like it's a movie directed by a 9-year-old.
I
got that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like it's Face Off or, you know, just
Not
another
true.
film.
Not true. Face Off is different because Face Off embraces its silliness and has a consistent tone about
I would
that.
argue this takes itself very seriously.
Way too
Yes.
seriously.
Yeah.
This
Yes.
movie is so self-serious, and then when silly things happen in it, it jars.
But
That's
this film
Sure,
isn't
sure.
that silly. We're looking at Fast Five and on very silly.
But I mean, the sequences, the first racing sequence is atrociously silly. Like in the aesthetic, in the actual like special effects, in the way that it's presented. And
Oh,
it's,
no.
it's
No.
like-
Do you mean the
NOS
drag down the street?
the NOS
100%
blur?
the very first one.
No, I think it's great.
I think
it's excellent.
it's like something out of Speed Racer. Now, I like the Speed Racer movie.
Because you think Speed Racer is stylized and it's a choice, or you think this is
100%. They're trying to be cool. And they're like, this is going to get people fucking amped and
It-
pumping.
and it did.
it's not cool.
In 2001,
But Tom,
it did.
It doesn't.
did.
Then I'm okay with saying it's dated and it doesn't work. In the same
Yeah,
way with
that's-
you guys.
That's fine.
When
That's
you
absolutely
guys
fine.
look at the movies that I love, like The Godfather, and go, yeah, but that doesn't hold up now. I don't have that problem with it because I love it.
Don't
but I have
lump Marcus into that
The-
conversation. He'll be mad.
Well, you.
Just hear me out, though.
Go on.
The blur that they use when they're driving down the street, like as the street's flying by and it's all just blurred, right, is excellent.
I disagree.
I think
It feels
because
fast.
It does what other films have
No,
not
like,
attempted
sorry,
to do
that's
yet.
Somewhat even furious.
And
Yeah.
Go on.
Other films have not attempted this yet. You've got what's that film with
Need
Gene
for
Hackman?
Speed.
No, The French Connection.
Sure.
So you know, like
where they like actually put the camera on the hood and they're like doing basically a POV of the car
Yeah,
going
yeah.
through.
And it-
thrilling.
you know, but this leans into the fact that NOS is pushing the limits and it's like it's blowing past, right? And everything that you're doing, and you see the car physically shaking and the adrenaline going through it. And I think that's what it's doing. It's building that adrenaline.
I get no sense of any reality because it's a movie that nominally is taking place in the real world to some extent. I know you guys could argue like, well, they're street races and they're a bit like heightened and all that, but still it's like these are meant to be like urban gritty criminals. Like people
No, the only convincing person in that whole street race sequence
is Ja Rule. 100% because he didn't know he was in a film. And when he yells, Monica! I lose my shit and I'm
I
like,
would
okay,
agree. He's the
good
most
movie.
authentic person there.
If you win or lose, you get this one. But if you win, you get this one. To which I'd ask, how does that work? How logistically, what are we going to do? Do I only get access to one titty? How are you going to keep the other one away? And then she decides after he drives off, she's like, that's not going to work. I'm just not going to sleep with him if he loses because I can't work out.
She's got a chastity belt on one boob.
She doesn't mean one boob. She means her. What are
No,
you
she
talking
says
about?
you get if you win or lose, you get
No,
this one. But
no.
if you win, you get her sister too.
No, she's talking about
The girl
Monica
across
over
the
there.
street.
You
No,
idiot.
open
she's
your
talking
eyes,
about
man.
No, she's talking about both her titties.
You're
No.
being the dumbest person alive right
If that's
now.
true, then I missed that. But
Yep.
I prefer
She
my
refers to the friend
'Cause
who
he
then
said-
blows a kiss
and
and,
then he
waves.
says, while he's driving, he's like, yeah, menage blows or something.
That's funny.
He makes a threesome joke.
I prefer my
You're so
I prefer my read that
You are
she's referring
so
to her two titties.
dumb.
But that's fine.
Gosh.
That's funny. I did miss that. Anyway, I think that sequence gives no actual heft as if it's taken.
I'll tell you. Can I tell you what takes me out of it?
Go on.
It's LA. Where are all the cops?
Yeah, well, they have that. Well, Brian.
That is the largest. That
There's
is the
hundreds of
largest
them.
crowd I've ever seen in a street. That is a street party, and there's no cops.
Yeah.
They wait for the scanner
wait.
for an armed robbery and they...
Yeah, but prior to that, they have no idea where the cops are. And prior to that, they're like, "Oh, we're good. It's one homicide every cop in town's going to the other side of town.
There
We're
are what,
good.
7 cops?
And
They'll all
also,
go there.
also, sorry, all of these people are wanted. Like Toretto, Vin Diesel's walking down the street
Yeah.
after the bust has happened, and the cop drives past him and recognizes him. It's like he must be
Yeah.
notorious.
Yeah.
I think that's obviously silly. I think you could reason it or rationalize it with, well, Brian's told the cops not to bust them because he's got to get in with Dom, right? So he's like, no, you've got to let this race happen.
Then why
or
chase
whatever.
them?
Because then it's like gives him the opportunity to pick Dom up and do that. You know, I'm fixing
Maybe
this
it's-
movie when it doesn't deserve it in
Yes,
some
keep
ways, right?
going.
Oh, I don't think it makes it better. I'm like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah, it does.
I'll
Brian's
say
planned it.
Dom Toretto is an all-time name. I kind
Great.
of hear that and I'm like, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote that and then saw Vin Diesel and was like, that's him, is great.
Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should.
Here we go. This is my moment where I'm like, I cannot take this movie seriously. I think it's a farce. When he's like, I almost had you, man. And he's like, oh, yeah?
Almost had
well,
me.
you almost had me. Well, you forgot about your windshield wipers. Oh! And maybe next time you should make sure the door's all the way closed. Ah! Like everything he says, the crowd loses their shit.
Yes.
When
Yeah.
it's
The
just
extras-
like the weakest
The
shit that
extras
he's
work
saying.
is not good in this film. They're all like, ooh,
Why is the
What do you th-
buster here? Because the buster kept me out of handcuffs.
Actually a great line.
I-
and
Great
I
line.
think he kind of nails that.
Yeah.
that's one of the best lines of the film.
I agree.
He
I agree.
crushes that. And it's like, for all the BS and like stuff that you go, that's tacky, that's so dumb. Vin Diesel's good in this.
Most of the time, I actually do think so. I think he's got a suave menace to him that
And
suits the role.
How do we feel about
Except
the-
his armpit stains. Oof.
I relate to that.
They're
I didn't
bad.
notice that. I didn't notice that at all.
I noticed that immediately.
Really?
No, I didn't. But if he's got
When
him,
he's in the
got him.
garage and he's got his back to the camera and we haven't established who Dom is yet. We just see this balded head.
Yeah.
His armpit stains are drenched like
Really?
a bucket of
Didn't
water
catch it.
under each.
Nice.
Oh,
That's
man,
hilarious.
it's so
Nice.
funny.
That's realistic. It's
Sorry.
hot. You see how yellow that color, the color grading is? It's hot there.
I wrote first note,
grading.
yellow piss filter, my favorite.
Wow, favorite.
Magic Mike.
It's obviously not as pronounced as it is in Magic Mind.
No,
but
it's
it's
pretty
it,
bad.
and it
It's
fades. It goes away.
Were you going to say something about?
Yes,
Sorry,
the
Frank.
monologue that Dom does when he introduces Brian O'Connor to the muscle car that was his dad's.
Atrocious.
I was gonna
couldn't
ask.
stop laughing.
Okay.
I think it's really bad. And
I
I think
think-
it's the one moment in the film where his limitations come out because he's okay as this hulking, weird guy who almost looks like he's made of like, you know, fucking diesel. I mean, like, you know, he's like a part of a car.
wow.
So there's something there, right? He looks like some attachment, like he comes with the muscle cars. Like he's just so defined by this world that he lives in. And yet when he goes, all right, here's my moment to emote. And he goes, how fast have you ever gotten in this car? He goes, I've never driven it. He goes, why not? And says, scares the shit out of me, man. And I went, oh, that was a good line. And that was a good delivery. It was very hushed. And then he's
Stop
like,
there.
now get ready for the story of my father's death. And when he said, I could hear his screams. They said he died instantly. The screams were me.
It was me.
I was like,
It was me who was screaming.
Wait, Tom, this will make you
So
mad.
bad.
Get ready.
he's still alive?
The 9th film
Yeah.
is that story.
It's like
It's the whole thing.
it's
You
a
go back in
prequel?
time.
Back in time. And
Do
you know
they get
what?
a young actor to play him?
Yeah, they do. And guess
Oh.
what? He's perfect.
The young Dom.
He nails it vocally.
Wow.
He looks like it. I just went, that is top tier casting
Wow.
to find a young Vin Diesel. Because I think
What does he sound like pre-puberty?
Hey,
he sounds
just a
he
little bit
sounds
younger.
He sounds exactly the same, just a bit lighter on. Like it's not forced. It is so natural. I was blown away, and I got a point to this. I just completely lost it.
Go on.
I was thoroughly impressed by that. It was honestly insane to see that. It was the best part of that whole film. Number 9 is so dumb.
Does that storyline in Fast 9?
Oh, it gives you everything. It gives you dad. It
Do
gives
you-
you,
does it land
gives you the
emotionally,
brother.
though?
His brother's John Cena, by the way.
Who's his dad?
Good question. Unknown.
Unknown?
Yeah,
Okay.
some unknown.
Jeff Daniels?
You buy it.
No.
No, you
Can't
buy
be
it. You're
Jeff
kind of like,
Daniels.
yeah, that kind of checks out.
Bruce Willis.
Young Dom is.
I can keep
is
going.
Really
We go
good.
watch it. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah. Oh, that was the point I want to say is when you see impressionists do your normal like Owen Wilsons and your what's the
Impressions?
one? Yeah, Christopher Walken that you can do.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, you never hear someone do Vin Diesel.
Vin Diesel's hard. He's not an easy
Tricky.
one to do. And it's not one of those ones where it's like, well, he doesn't really have a thing. He has a thing.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
incredibly difficult to mimic.
Yeah.
It's very singular.
Because you end up doing Stallone.
No one's because it's so low and resonant.
Yeah.
People can do Groot, but that's because that's like him saying one phrase and he's kind of doing the I am Groot, and you can kind of modulate it to that. But to actually do Dom Toretto is very
Impossible.
difficult.
Yeah.
I could
That's
never.
really tough.
I'm sure there's some people out there, but it's a tricky one.
Number 9's impressive to see that. That's it. And then they go
A
to
guy
space
adopting
in the
that.
same film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
that sounds like it would have been fun. I wish
They
that
go
were
to
this movie.
space.
But this movie is, I do not think, has any real emotional impact or anything that works on that level. So I'm like, well, I'm watching this film for the thrills, right? And even as someone who's not a rev head, you brought up Mad Max earlier. I don't give a fuck about cars, and I don't give a fuck about watching movies in which those are at the forefront of it and loving it's that sort of engine and it's that sort of thing or whatever. But I love Mad Max because I think there's a way in which George Miller uses them as a very thrilling set piece or a very thrilling aspect of the world. So this world is predicated upon cars, motor vehicles, and doing that. Do you guys know how much of the movie goes on where there is not a single race, where there is not a single set piece to do with cars?
About 35 minutes
Oh!
after race wars.
It's like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
Why are we...
We're establishing the conflict of the story and
I think
Brian's
so too.
choice of what's he
think
going to choose and
and
how's he going to do
it's
it.
giving you more.
Sucks.
It does. It's not great.
No.
I'll give you that.
No,
but then you
Tom,
get to the end.
You would be complaining. Sorry to cut you off, Frank, but
That's
you would be
fine.
complaining if it was just races.
You
and
mean
just cars and
Mad
just-
Max Fury Road, the movie that is exclusively races, the greatest action film of the last 10 years?
It's exclusively races.
It's
is it?
races, and they talk like maybe 10% of the movie. If
Tom-
you want to
Tom-
say a movie
Tom has
cannot
a
exist
point.
that's like that,
I would love to
that
cut
is
him.
that
I would love
movie.
to cut him off because Tom has a point. This movie, if they had told stories through the races like Mad Max Fury Road does, fine. But the races are sort of separate to the actual story. A race happens, and then the result, and then story happens, and then there's a race, and then more story happens. They're separate entities.
Sure.
But still, when Brian reveals to his girlfriend,
Jordana. No.
Jordana Brewster,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that,
No.
that he's a cop,
Mia. Yes.
and he's
Sorry.
like, and she's like, what? And she's like, you've got to help me save Dom. I'm like, cool, I'm in. Let's go. Let's save him. It lands for me. And
Oh,
then
I like that too.
obviously the last race where Dom's in the muscle car
Mm.
and they're waiting for the train.
And he
that-
does, and he pops a wheelie.
Pops a wheelie.
The best.
That is actually kind of great.
And-
When the car fully just...
He pops a wheelie
Leans
in a
back.
muscle car. It's just badass.
It's like he turns it into a horse for a sec.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
he
run
really
like the
does.
wind, bullseye.
Oh, yeah.
That I was like, fuck yeah. And then
Yeah.
the rest of that sequence I don't really care for. I
Re-
think
so
it's-
then
when
he flips,
when he
and then he-
crashes it, yes.
And then he goes, he lets him get away.
Yeah.
And says, I owe you a 10-second car. And then Brian gets what doesn't land for you there? How can that not land for you?
Any of it because I don't care about their dynamic and feel there's a connection between them. And I don't think the movie's done anything to make me feel that between them. And if you point to any given scene between the two of them and go, can't you see they're brothers? Never.
But the Buster kept him out of handcuffs.
Buster kept him out of handcuffs. And he knows about his dad.
That's true. The Buster kept him out of handcuffs.
Oh, that's true.
yeah.
Sorry.
I
Is that maybe the
and
moment?
then Brian
That's
came and
the whole movie.
saved him from the
yeah.
truck.
You're right. Sorry.
He
one
earns his trust?
great line in the movie.
Ah, yeah.
Shit, I forgot that's how emotional connections work when someone says one cool thing. No, the rest of the movie's really bad. When they're sitting and they're having lunch together.
That's why I haven't got an emotional connection with you, because you've never said a cool thing.
Also, there's no emotional connection because you never let me speak. It's this
I'm
one-sided
going to let you
relationship.
finish 1 second. But
I'm letting you finish.
There's a tricky line at the start of this film, though, that I always cringe at. I know it's coming every time because I've seen this film too many
Bullshit.
times.
No one likes the tuna here.
No, I wrote it down because I couldn't quote it verbatim. But it's the try fat burger from now on. Get yourself a double cheeseburger with fries for $2.95. F word.
oh yeah. Yeah, throws the F slur
As
at
he
him.
leaves
Oh,
after his
I was
tuna
like,
melts.
Which is
FUC? No, not
And
that
the
one.
line
The other
itself
F
is
word.
so convoluted.
Yeah,
it's like hyper
Such a
specific.
mouthful. Tell him
So
that
make
Leon
sure-
sent you.
Head down the road, take a right, go to Hungry Jack's, get yourself a double quarter pounder, hold the onion.
Whoa.
$2.95.
Quarter
Do you want
pounders,
fries with
Macca's,
that?
Hungry
Absolutely.
Jack's.
Not
Oh
on
my
Thursdays.
God.
That's when Doris works there. She'll drop the burger.
You got to download the My Macca's app. You get a smart deal. 2 burgers for $6.95.
Actually,
And then
can
he
you
takes
get
a
me
breath.
some nuggets?
Your bundle of sticks. Yeah,
Takes a breath, F word.
Yes.
And it just throws it in. And it's so like, oh, come on, man. That wasn't necessary. And it's a product of the 90s,
It's
right?
so it takes you out. You're like,
It was
whoa.
bad. Because the only time they do that in the whole film.
Yeah. It's very much 90s.
They say it in
and
Fast 9, don't they, when they're in space? And then
Yeah,
they have,
you can't
they
hear it
have-
because they're wearing scuba suits.
Of course.
And they're misguiding
In
a satellite.
space?
In space, they're in scuba suits. I'm not
in a
kidding.
car
I
in
wish I
space
was
because the
kidding.
car is not insulated. Oh my gosh.
It's like a
beautiful.
Commodore
It's
wagon or
beautiful.
something dumb with an actual rocket strapped to the back of it. And they're up in space because they have to hit a satellite and misguide that to stop the bad guy from using the satellite.
Do you know what I do love about the two Fast and Furious later films? I forget which ones. The one where they're planning this big heist, like Ocean's 11 style planning the heist, and then eventually the plan just falls apart. So they go, fuck it, let's drive through the wall and strap a chain to the safe, and we'll just drive it. We'll just drive out.
And that it gets worse from there.
Oh, that's great.
Can I say?
In number 10, Jason Momoa was the bad guy who's, by the way, so good.
Awesome.
So good.
Sorry, awful. Of course he is.
Yeah,
He's awful.
No. He's like it's like Jason Momoa in The Dark Knight. It's like they're like, you can just be the Joker in this film. We don't care, whatever. People are
He'd be
going to
good at
call
that.
you the Joker. It actually works. It's kind of funny. And he's like painting his nails throughout, and he's wearing like little ribbons in his hair and stuff. And he's just like
What a
super, like,
Joker.
just whatever. Anyway, Dom saves the Vatican from a bomb going off,
Great.
which it rolls. It's like the
So-
boulder from Raiders,
Yeah.
but it's rolling through Rome. And he uses his car, defies all gravity,
Yeah.
spins around the front of it, slams on the brakes, flips the bomb into the canal. The bomb then blows up. It saves the Vatican, of course.
The Catholic undertone is great, but
Everything
because he always has a
you're-
cross on. But
Insane.
The first 3 films are not the same series as the last 7.
No.
Well,
They're
everything
entirely
you're
different.
saying about these later
From
ones,
4 onward,
They-
it completely loses its way.
it becomes
No.
like they're like
finds. I would say argue finds its way because those films, similar to sort of backtrack on my own point, they know what they are and they're leaning into the ridiculousness and they're like, it's kids playing with toys and what possibly could we do?
It's G.I. Joe for the mentally challenged.
And they're all superheroes, and Dwayne The Rock Johnson is holding a helicopter with a chain with one arm, and he's like, yeah, I'm stronger than a helicopter. Like, they're all superhuman.
so they're secret agents.
And, like,
essentially.
They are. They
Okay,
literally turn into
sounds
secret agents.
better.
And
sounds
also-
more fun than this movie.
But let's go
Definitely.
back to the Hobbs and Shaw of it all, where Jason Statham and The Rock and Vin Diesel, I don't know if Jason Statham, I might, but Vin Diesel and The Rock have clauses in their contracts where they can't be knocked out or they can't lose a fight. So the whole
You
premise
told me this the other day, and
I'm premise of the
stumped.
film is about them fighting each other, right?
Yeah.
But no one can lose. So it's like, you punch me, I punch you. We're
the
both
origin
alphas.
of the candy ass, right? Wasn't it the Rock
Oh,
called
yes.
was like someone on the film was a candy ass.
Yeah.
And they're like, who? And he's like, I'll never tell. Wink. And everyone's like, so Vin Diesel then. And
Yeah.
they like go back and forth, like sending
Yeah.
subliminals to each other for like a year before finally they both acknowledge, yeah, we fucking hate each other.
Yeah.
And
But
there was apparently a moment where they both I've heard this is like conjecture, but apparently they had to do a last movie together. It was in their contract. And one of the producers or someone was like, all right, you guys have to sort this out. Go into this makeup room, go into this trailer, hash it out, work out how you're going to do this. And they're like, all right. And they're in there for hours and they come out and they're like, we've come to an agreement. It's like, all right, great. What is it? We will never work together again. It's like, no! They just could not get over how much they hate
so
each
bad.
other.
I love the new thing that's coming out in the last 12 months is that The Rock is the worst person alive.
Yeah, but
He's just like a total
Vin
dick.
Diesel's also a
Vin
weird
Diesel's
guy.
insane. Vin Diesel is insane. And all he has is Fast and Furious.
Yes.
Everything in his life is Fast
And
and
we should
Furious.
say this is like the 7th highest grossing film series of all time. Like it's up
because
there.
there's 10 of them.
Just remember,
but, like,
though-
No, but they do
it's
make
true,
a lot
but
of money.
a lot of them. Some of the most recent ones have made 100, like 700,
Almost
800
a bill,
million.
yeah.
This has made like this one made 200 million.
Yeah,
200
off like a $40 million budget.
It's now like the 9th highest grossing out of the 11th of them. Like it's right down there. Tokyo Drift, I think, made less.
Yeah.
But this
Yeah.
did not make that much, but it was a big enough sensation in 2001. It
Yeah.
cracked like
They
the top
got to the
20
end
for
of
the
this
year.
film as well, just to remember, and went, okay, we're doing a sequel. It's going to have Paul Walker, no Vin Diesel.
And it's like, oh, good. You identified
And
the
weird,
major
yeah.
problem of the film.
Yeah. And then they got to the end of the
foregrounded it.
second one and went, where'd we go wrong?
They went, oh, Paul Walker and Vin Diesel, get rid of both of them, and let's get a new guy and go to Tokyo.
Which, by the way, it's a good sidestep. If you're going to take a sidestep like that, whatever, Tokyo Drift on its own is pretty enjoyable.
Is Ja Rule in any of them?
No,
I think
He's
he was
still driving around the desert. You're
Isn't
like,
he doing-
Barnacle!
But
He's doing
at the
Fire
tail
Festival
end
at this
of
point.
Tokyo Drift,
Yeah.
the very tail end in the post credits,
Dom
Vin
shows
Diesel.
up.
Dom shows up, and they go, "Now we've linked it. We've got him back. Let's connect it all again, and we're going to start again."
Boy, is there a joke here about spoilers? Like, spoiler alert, cars have a spoiler.
Can we put a muscle on
Tail
him?
end.
Nice,
Thank you.
that was right. But the fact is that
Spin your wheels.
there was
I'm a
whole,
burnout?
They
Yeah,
had many
gonna work.
contract issues with getting back Michelle Rodriguez and all this stuff. Like there was a real thing where they had this sense of entitlement, being like, "We are the Fast and the Furious, and without us, this is not a thing." And then it kept going. They're like, "Fine, fuck, have it then." And then they took the franchise and turned it into this absurd, just
It seems to me
rubbish.
that, yeah,
But
you
people love it.
hate the back end, but the back
I
end's
do.
where all the money and all the
Yeah.
legacy has come from.
I know. This is the
It
part I
isn't-
don't understand. I like this film as standalone because I think that it does feel very grounded. You go back to the scene where they're jacking the truck, and it's just a dude whose
Doing
arms
quad in the truck?
They're jacking on the truck.
Okay.
And
Jacking on the truck.
Okay, I was not watching this movie properly.
I think it all feels very raw and a bit cheap and a bit like.
And the stunts feel like real and lived in, and it's
Yeah.
like, and again, obviously,
and
that's
it's not
what
too
happens.
much. It's like it's viable. Like it's kind of like I mean, it feels very heightened. Like who's jacking these trucks? Also, why are the truck drivers not swerving?
Oh yeah,
Like
the truck
straight
drivers
up.
are so dumb.
They're
Or
giving
just-
them so much time to fire this harpoon into the seat next to them, and the driver's just sitting there, just being like.
Do you know what I
feels
love
like
is the
a
cut
good
between
idea.
they've got the truck driver here point of view, like
Yeah.
the front point of view. It's the
Yeah.
truck driver just driving straight, doesn't
Straight.
flinch, doesn't do anything,
Not even
and
looking.
Then it cuts to inside the cabin, and the truck driver's like, "Hey, get out of here!"
Yeah.
And then it cuts back,
It's
and he's
taken him a
sitting
minute to register.
dead still.
Yeah.
I think
my
it's
God.
kind of weird that Brian thinks
O'Connor.
that Brian O'Connor, he's kind of just like tapped into the idea that the truck drivers are now going to start fighting back because he doesn't have any extra info. to
Yes, he
let him-
does.
Does the truck driver has a shotgun? Like,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
revealed at
Yeah.
what point?
So not that they have a
fighting
shotgun,
back.
but
they're
the-
going to be
the-
fighting back.
Yeah,
But
the
it's
truck
like, doesn't he
drivers
say they're not going to lay down forever or something? And now it's just like, and he got it right because he knew that this time.
No, they talked about it in the.
the cops have spoken
cops.
about this in like the previous scene.
So
Right,
They've
yeah.
had enough. This is it.
You
They're
weren't
now
watching
going-
this movie properly.
No,
No.
I agree. Whenever there were moments where it was like he breaks into the warehouse, gets caught in there, and they're like, "What were you doing in there?" And he's like, "I'm doing this because Hector was ordering this." And then Johnny Tran, he's like, "All right, well, let's go back to Johnny Tran's warehouse." And they go in there, and then they bring the guy in, and they fill his mouth up with oil.
Oh, yucky.
And then they go, he talks to the cops, and they're like, "Well, he's got all these DVDs and all this." And I'm like,
Yucky.
I don't really. This shit is stupid. Like, there's not enough here to matter. And so there are moment to
Because
moment
DVD
scenes-
players are worthless.
Yeah, that's it. That's why.
But Tom,
No,
you're missing the overall theme here.
which is
Family.
Fast.
vroom vroom,
Oh.
go boom boom.
Family.
Gas in the bomb, a doom bomb.
Oh wow.
I did
Forgot how it went
arrive.
already.
I did arrive at the realization.
Driving
watching the
reference.
kids, watching the guys in their cars and the different colors and using the NOS and all this. This is anime for rev heads.
Yes,
Right? That's
absolutely.
kind of what it is, and it's like, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a particularly well made one, because that sounds like way more fun than it is when I watch it. But the NOS and the ways that they can like up their speed
Oh,
by pressing buttons.
So stupid.
It's,
Sorry.
It's
'Cause
like an anime
obviously-
thing where it's like, well, you haven't seen my final move. Check this out. But it's like, oh, I didn't know he had that move. And that's
Hold
what this movie is.
on.
I
You know-
press a
Hold
button
on.
The thing
and
that
I
I-
go faster.
The thing that I hate about
Stupid.
it, Paul
It's
Walker's
stupid.
Paul Walker's first race, where he's got the NOS and he does it, 60% of the way down the.
He's got the stage one,
Yeah.
stage 2, 3 on the laptop.
Yeah,
It's
it's
so
does the
fucking
NOS,
stupid.
and then Dom Toretto does it later, and of course he wins because
it's
like.
about timing. Like,
Yeah,
obviously.
but that's not complicated.
Do it.
Any
And
fucking
that's
guy
it.
can figure
When-
that
When
out.
Jesse's racing Johnny Tran and he's like, too quick, young buck. And I'm like, yeah, I could have fucking told him that.
We saw that in the first
Wait till
race.
you're close to the end and then press the button.
It's so
It's not
simple.
complicated, but they're just basically like, nah, my button does more.
I got more buttons
I've got
than
more
you.
buttons. That's all it is.
That bugs me because it's like
so stupid.
because it doesn't make Dom he's not like
doesn't make you a better driver.
No, if you are braver and are willing to push the limits, maybe that's cool. Like you have the bravery and courage to go that fast and to be that on the edge of control. Because they don't show that. They don't show speed wobbles. They don't show anything that's like, if you swerve, you're dead.
Well,
No.
they do when Paul Walker.
Brian's
his
the
car
only one that
falls
happens
apart.
with. Yes.
Yeah.
Falls apart. Yeah, but
Because he pushed it past its limit. Like, you've got to know your
because
limit.
his car sucks. That doesnst make him a bad driver. I think you want to see the danger of if you're driving at 200 miles an hour, 320 k's an hour, and if you twitch
different
on the
skill
wheel.
sets. Different skill sets.
Different
What
buttons.
skill sets?
Well, you
What-
press
no,
the button
skill set.
later,
Okay,
then
hear me
someone
out.
else pressed a button.
Yeah, good skill set.
That's a great skill
Hear
set.
me out. Hear me out. In the races that they're doing, it's a straight line, right? So it's all about timing. It's about knowing the timing on that, right? It's also about how much you have under the hood. They talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
What do you got under the hood?
Well, then you're not
Right?
going to race Dom Toretto because you know he's got the best
Disadvantages,
car.
advantages, whatever.
Why would you bother racing if you know he's got a better car than you?
Because that's
Because
designing
you-
new vehicles.
you're
The whole
meant to-
point is these guys are engineering their own vehicles too.
But he's
Like,
the best driver. He's meant to be like,
No. But this is where I want you to hear me out. And then he gets picked up by Brian, right? Remember when he's running from the cops?
Mm-hmm.
And as Brian's driving and swerving past the cops and doing all this evasive shit, you've got Dom grabbing the ceiling of the roof of the car, and he's just like, "Oh shit!" Like,
You're a
this
good
is
driver. What are
driving.
you, a pickup
This
driver?
is
You've done this
different
before?
driving.
yeah, I'm not saying Brian's
It's
a
a
bad
different
driver. I'm
skill
not
set.
saying Brian's a bad driver. I'm saying that the race war, the drag race situation is dumb.
Agreed.
And it doesn't it doesn't show
Race
what
wars
makes
is dumb.
it doesn't show what
All
makes
race wars are dumb. Yes,
it doesn't
Hot
show
take.
it doesn't show what makes them good drivers. It just shows them pressing buttons and going fast.
I think the most convincing thing you've said, Marcus, that I agree with is seeing Vin Diesel out of his element briefly in this movie
Sure.
when Paul's driving him in that first bit, and then a stupid fucking sequence, but it did make me laugh when they raced the middle-aged man in the Ferrari. It's
Awesome.
like, more than you could afford. All right. And it's like, well, guess we're drag racing these guys.
I love the lines
Smoke
like, how much does that cost? He's like, oh, if you saved your salary for 100 years,
Yeah.
you can probably afford a wingnut or something.
So
It's like,
dumb. You just want one of them to pull out a gun, like just shoot a tire or something. But then when he's driving there, and yeah, Vin Diesel puts his arm, and he's just like, "Oh, what's this guy doing?"
Yeah.
I like that. I'm already going to say I'm a little bit throwing in here, just because I'm like, that's a tiny bit of the texture that I need in the actual racing that is storytelling and that is character development.
yes.
I also like
I think it
the
gives
Buster
layers
kept me
too.
out of handcuffs.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
good line.
It does, but going back to my point is most of the races don't tell a story. They
Agreed.
seem like segregated points. The evasive driving and that sort of stuff does tell a story because it shows that Brian has skill and courage and bravery and all that stuff. But the normal street races just don't really do much. They show that Dom
No,
is
but that's-
dominant.
That's
dominant
just the
Toretto.
flair that these rev heads want. That's what you're giving.
Yeah, but as
You're
a,
giving the
as a movie,
fanboys of this stuff what exactly.
yeah,
what
but as
they
a
want.
moviegoer and someone who wants a narrative, why don't they do both?
Yeah, but tell
You can do
that to the thousands of people that loved this franchise and this film
They-
back
yeah,
when
but-
it came out.
Which
It's
is
huge.
fine.
at
People,
the time.
they don't
people
do
are
drag
allowed to
racing
be
anymore.
wrong, and that's the thing as well. That I think that it would be false to say if I had a friend of mine who was in modern day who'd never watched this series.
Friend of mine.
2024 friend of mine, and he was really into cars and really into street racing. And I was like, you should watch this movie. It's all about street racing. He'd watch it and be like, you fucking lied to me. No, it's not all about street racing.
It's about
there's
family.
a little bit of street racing in it.
Yeah.
And there's some really shitty acting and some really weak attempts at
You're being-
characterization.
I think you're being
And
a
there's
bit harsh.
Couple of, well, I think Paul Walker, who is essentially the lead, is very, very bad at
But
this. If we haven't
those-
established that,
those
he's very, very bad at
dreamy
this.
blue eyes. that
His
he
eyes
has.
are insane.
That's,
He
the,
is
that's the best part of
stunning.
his performance. The opening when it just zooms in on the windshield and his eyes, I was like, oh my God. And then
Yeah, and
he's
I mean
broke.
it from there.
But that's it. They've just given the helm to someone. And look, I think as a bonus, he could actually drive, and he backed it with being like, "Well, I'm going to do a lot of the stunts myself as well."
Mm-hmm.
He's in there as the good-looking kid that's going to get the girls fucking hot under the collar, like. For real though,
Hot
like,
under the
he is.
bonnet.
He's
Yeah,
a
there we
good.
go.
He's a
Yeah.
good leading man. He doesn't have to be that talented.
Similar to Keanu Reeves. Doesn't do a lot, looks good.
I think,
is
I
straight
think
down the
Keanu's far more engaging. And I think Keanu's
a worse actor.
that is the
Yeah.
most, that is silly. That's a silly
It's
thing to
not.
say.
I
would
love
say
Keanu.
very,
I love Keanu.
to go to
If
the
Keanu's
Chris
the worst
Pine, Chris
actor.
M. These two, Paul Walker, Keanu Reeves, are like very comparable.
That's an interesting point. I think Keanu Reeves is a better movie star than Paul Walker is an
Yeah,
actor.
yeah.
Yeah, well,
So it's like, which is me essentially saying,
No.
even if Paul Walker had, which I don't necessarily agree with, but if we were to say that Paul Walker had better acting chops than Keanu Reeves is a better presence. Definitely more engaging presence. I just think it's crazy to put those two next to each other and consider The Matrix or Speed or, You know, now the John Wick series, and I know
Yes,
Keanu had
no,
longer.
Yeah,
in his
but
life,
do we
but
look?
still.
Do we look at choices and go, what? I mean, Paul Walker couldn't do The Matrix,
No,
but
or
Paul
Bill
Walker.
and Ted couldn't have done that.
Yeah, okay,
I don't think so.
that's a pretty good point.
Yeah, I think.
But
Keanu
I don't
had
know.
more
I
variety.
like Paul Walker. I like Into the Blue with Jessica Alba,
Yeah,
and they're just
you're
hanging out
one
with
of
sharks.
3 people who saw that movie.
Into the Blue, Fool's Gold. They're great movies.
Yeah.
Suntan people.
You're
The
what's
pillars
wrong.
of your person. If we went Inside Out 2 into your head, sense of self at the bottom is just Into the Blue and Fool's Gold.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just,
I'm okay
it's just
with that.
6 Matthew McConaughey's eating
Yes.
popcorn in his head.
they're all very tan,
Have I
and I'm just jealous.
Have I told you I got a Fool's Gold DVD
Hmm.
from my dad brought home a bunch of illegal DVDs from Thailand, and he had like Fool's
Whoa.
Gold. In
No
one of
wonder
those,
your mother left him.
Not how it happened.
Oh no, sorry, I forgot.
Yeah,
it
thanks,
was
man.
Tom's fault.
Really got my back there.
We forgot it was Tom's fault.
Wow, you're discrediting Tom's role in that entirely.
Oh, that was fucking comedy gold. Go
My
on.
father brought home all these DVDs, these illegal DVDs from Thailand, and one of them was Fool's Gold, and it said down the bottom, "A rip-roaring thrill ride," in quotes,
yeah.
and then like you couldn't see what the quote was from, and I tried looking it up years later, and it's like, that quote doesn't exist. I'm convinced it was you. Like, you wrote that on like MySpace back in the day, and they're like, "Thank you," and they
Yep.
took that and put it on
Frank.
just they didn't put it on the poster, just the illegal Thailand DVD
Yeah.
of it. Anyway, Fool's
back to
Gold,
the-
bad movie.
Back to the film.
whoa.
I think Vince Vance or Vince.
Who?
He's the antagonist from the group, the one that hates
Leon.
Brian. No, I think it's Vince.
Isn't it Leon?
It's Vince.
Am I wrong? My bad. I thought we were talking about Leon, but we could be wrong.
No. Anyway,
Vince. Yeah,
Vince.
you
Alright,
did
my
mean
bad.
Vince.
Vince he just hates Paul Walker. He's just like jealous because he's into Mia, this whole thing. I think as far as antagonists go, I think he's pretty great. I don't mind him. He's just a bit sort of like chumpish, you know, but he kind of works.
Not a lot
the
to it,
flavour
but I
a
think
bit.
he's fine.
I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
I really love Michelle Rodriguez, right?
She's got great presence in this.
I've
She's
never
so-
liked her.
Really, I think she's so unique,
So sue-me.
and powerful, and so sexy in this film. By the way, I'm just going to say that.
She established very quickly, like this.
Who
was,
does she remind you of, pal?
Yeah, I love it.
This
I love a
is,
strong woman.
yeah.
She's literally like at one point in the house, she's like, "Hey Dom, why don't you take me upstairs and give me a massage?"
yeah.
And I was like,
And he's just gotten
Great.
home from running from
And
the
he's-
cops.
yeah.
And she's like, "Massage time, bucko."
literally, it's not like I'll take you upstairs and I'll give you a massage. She's like, "You give me a massage." I fucking love that.
The scene in the garage where
Hmm.
she rips open his shirt and he lifts her up. I was like, "Oh, it's kind of like that."
Good
Oh,
reaction.
I-
Yeah,
I
felt a
absolutely.
tingle.
Yes, and Michelle Rodriguez, I do agree. She's very, very like sexy in a way that I think at this time
It's so
was
unorthodox.
not in. Yes, it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
not the standard way. She was very, very like masculine in a sense,
Yeah,
or at
yeah.
least she was very
Well, she's a tough
aggressive and
chick.
assertive. But it
Yeah.
The
worked.
tough chick type. You didn't have that.
and she's got pretty cold in the face, I'd say,
Yes.
with Michelle. Like, she
Oh,
doesn't
resting
give, yeah, she
face.
doesn't give you a lot.
I would argue a softer version, but like Sigourney Weaver kind of set the template there, where you kind of go the tough action star who's
Yeah.
also sexy, and then
Hmm.
Michelle Rodriguez kind of takes it in the 2000s. But the scene that made me laugh because it's so unintentionally funny now is when the girls come up to Dom at the race and they're like, "Hey Dom, hey Dom," and she's like, "You better get out of here before I leave skid marks on your face." And I'm like, "Is she
no,
gonna
no, no.
wipe
No. She, what is that?
What do I
smell?
skank?" But then threatens to wipe their faces on her ass and leave skid marks on their face. Like,
No.
I know it's a driving
It's like-
reference,
yeah,
but
come on.
the
Come on,
second
man.
she said skid marks, I was
Get
like,
your mind out of the gutter.
Michelle,
Just because you shit all over
Use
everything.
wet
The cop
wipes.
at the same joke with one of the cops who is in charge of Paul Walker's character.
Ted Levine.
Yeah. And
So
he's,
good.
He's just
Great
like
seeing him.
something about identifying the skid marks
Yeah.
as Doms. And I
Oh,
was
the
like,
same
And you're like,
time.
oh, okay.
Made
so
me giggle.
Michelle and
That
Dom are
toilet
just all over
looked the same.
town, leaving skid
they
marks
all
everywhere.
over town.
There's a couple fetish thing going on there.
Dom's been here. Oh, really? You can see his car? No, not his
shit.
car.
I think that this is a good little like almost gangster film. It's like a little with just cars thrown in. It's grounded. It's like the whole thing's just about stealing DVDs and hijacking trucks.
Well,
and stuff.
it's
and
so
like,
low
and racing,
scale, and that's
it's
what
like,
makes
is
it
kind of great.
Good. What do we? And we don't. Obviously, you don't like Jesse, the kid who does all the programming. What do you feel about when he gets gunned down by the the drive-by
That's
Uzi shooting.
directly taken from. Have you seen Menace to Society?
Yeah.
That's truly lifted from
Yeah.
the final drive-by Menace to Society.
It's
and
been
I'm like,
done too much.
He's literally, when he's on the ground and he's running like
Scrambling.
that on all fours,
Yeah.
that is what
It's the
happens. It's
same
the
scene,
same
no.
So I'm like, well, that pisses me off because that's from a better movie to start with. But also, Jesse, who I know is suggested to be like ADD or ADHD or on the spectrum, but when he shows up to the house and Paul Walker's pointing a gun at Dom and he's like, hey guys, I just don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. So what's going on here anyway? Like, he doesn't acknowledge whatever the fuck's happening.
Read the room,
Dude,
man.
I mean, he's having a time.
He's having a time, but
He's obviously in the
still-
middle of a breakdown or something.
I look at a scene like that logically, and I'm annoyed at the timing of the Yakuza knowing he's there at that time, and
Yeah.
like it's all very
It's all
convenient
circumstantial,
and-
so
yeah.
the story can happen. Yes,
That pisses
and
me
also
off.
the fact that we said this in Race Wars when Jesse loses and then he just drives away, and you're like, what? At what point do we care about him and this car and his dad who's in prison who we've never
We
met?
don't care.
Yeah,
And
No,
it's,
so
and
then
the
we
movie
don't.
does too much of that, in my opinion, where it goes, you care about this, remember? I'm like, do I?
No. I would agree that I don't.
do
I
a
never
little bit
did.
less. Like just make Jesse the younger brother or whatever, and
But
then they
it's
shoot him.
It's more to the point, I think, that it affects Dom, and you see that, and you go, well,
Yeah.
this is my family. My family's now breaking. Right?
Is family important to Dom Toretto?
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay.
Ooh. Is it?
We're
Is
going to have
that
to look that
mentioned?
up
Yeah.
if we can. later on.
www.google.
The point is-
www.domtoretto.com. And it's just family in Comic Sans.
Sans.
He's very much leaning into and committing to the idea that his most important value is family. So when this happens, it's more of a Dom thing than it is a whatever his name is.
Sorry.
Yeah,
See
I'm
what
more
I
of a
mean?
sub.
When we use Dom by itself like that, it gets a little weird. Can I say
Yeah.
literally one more thing and then I'll shut
Last
up?
thing.
Last thing. I think it's a little weird that this movie pitches or is pitched as not only a movie about street racing, which it's not, but a movie about, if you read synopsis of it or if you read people's retrospectives of it,
Did we do a synopsis?
we'll
do it later.
Maybe vaguely. But well, I think if you read it, it'll say like Brian has to choose between his new family and the police. And I'm like, no, he doesn't. That is never, ever the choice that's made in the movie.
Yeah.
He clearly is always on the police's side and he never goes like, God, what am I going to do? I have this new family now.
Yes,
That's not the movie.
I agree.
It's
That's not
really
a point of
it
tension for them.
weirdly
Him.
gets put out there as if that's the choice or the conflict.
I think that's almost like
No, but this-
backtracking because later on,
Later, that's it.
in the
but
series.
people are bringing that to the first movie
Yes.
and applying it. It's like that's not in the text.
No.
You are bringing
But he
that from other
doesn't.
things.
He doesn't hand them in after the truck. The
Yeah,
saving them from the truck
but
thing.
that's- yeah,
He
sorry.
lets Dom go with his 10-second car. Like
it's a trade-off, but it's not him choosing them. He goes back to his law enforcement job, right?
Yes.
yeah, but
in that story.
he's covered for them.
I don't think
There's
Yes,
a conflict of
yes.
interest, so
It's-
he's
but
already
that's
given
not-
up his values as a cop.
I don't think it's
He
ever
made his choice.
as prominent or as affecting as it is in Donnie Brasco or the better example, Point Break, where you do really feel Keanu Reeves falling for Bodhi. You do actually feel that
Who?
sense that
Yeah, I can't.
Keanu
Every time-
Man.
Reeves.
I agree. That tension isn't there. Anyway,
It doesn't exist.
we are wrapping it up.
Yeah,
so
we
who's
are.
throwing
I'll
it in?
throw in the power.
Oh!
I think I was at 4. I could go to like a 4.8. And I think that's really on Marcus just convincing me that yes, there's a
What about
little-
me?
Sorry? Wait your turn. I take your point. I do like the idea of Dom sort of gaining more respect for Paul and being put out of his comfort zone when he's in the car and Paul's driving. And those, I did forget that was a moment of his performance I liked a lot when they were dragging the Ferrari. I was just kind of like, yep, that's got an interesting texture to it. Yeah, 4.7 or 4.8. I like it a little more.
I'm staying.
I'll go down to 7.5. We'll leave it there, but it's only a 3.3 drop. It's hard for me.
3.3 drop.
0.3.
He was at 10.8.
0.3, yeah.
Just above
Nearly
the
perfect.
movie.
It was nearly perfect.
I still love this film. I'm just
It's a good
so
time.
disappointed. I'm not even angry. I'm disappointed with where it went.
Yeah.
The series.
It's
almost the other way around.
Maddening.
I like it. It gets crazy.
Vroom, vroom.
Through the power.
Do we not need that?
Thanks for throwing the power. My name is Frank.
My name is Marcus.
My name's Tom.
Vroom, vroom. That was Fast and the Furious, 2001.
Yeah, it was.
Tell us your favorite Fast and the Furious movie from our Instagram. Give us an Instagram.
Frank's having a stroke.
What? I use social media. It's called Frown on Instagram.
ohheypals@gmail.com. Bye.
Through the power.
Nice.